Starting to live now.
Okay, so if you're watching online, we would like to let you know that the Fountain Lake School Board regular meeting is going to happen, but it's starting a little bit late because we are waiting for, we don't have a quorum yet. We have 2 board members absent and we are waiting on another to get here. So it'll be about 5 minutes. We're going to mute the feed, but stay online and we'll be back with you in a few. Okay, we are back for our official meeting. We now have a quorum, and we can call the meeting to order. Let's begin with our consent agenda items, and the board has had an opportunity to look over the monthly bills and the minutes from the last meeting. So if there are no questions, we will consider those items approved by unanimous consent. And with that, we will move into our financial review. Dr. Murphy?
Well, good evening. Welcome as we embark on yet another school year just ahead of us, basically a week out, starting next Monday with students. All staff was on campus here today. As far as the financial review is concerned, it kind of shows you all funds related to year-to-date, visited with Tanya, all that balances out, kind of shows you that we're currently at roughly 5.971 million year-to-date, $5,971,711 is where we're at currently. So as we open up this new year, several expenditures, as you can see, trying to get everything in and ready to go by the beginning of the school year. So as far as the revenue and expense report, I pulled that down for a little bit. We're trying to apply percentages. It's difficult to apply percentages because in our work session, we're going to move closer to the adoption of our budget, which in turn allows for us to use divisors based on the approved budget. And so that gives you a framework of an estimation at this point in time as far as what collections may have been and kind of year-to-date and current month as it relates to salary and benefits. So
now, are the June numbers final yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if there were still some lingering things going on.
No,
okay.
Pretty much now all that you will see as cleanup is some fund transfers, but as far as the overall amount of money, the amount of money that we ended the year with is accurate.
Okay. So now we have started the new fiscal year.
Into the new fiscal year, and you know, one of the things that you may or may not have heard when you're thinking of finances and expenditures with salaries, we are coordinating a August payroll for the first time, and so when employees finish the year with us next year, they'll receive a June and a July check, but not that August check.
Right.
So we'll be closer to clearing the balance at the end of the expenditures with 2 checks in the spring. So in the spring of the year, if you're looking at salaries comparatively, they're going to look a little bit different if you go prior year to that year. So
right.
You look back in your drive at the prior year's agendas and kind of comparing finances, how we're running, it will look differently because we've adjusted the
because you're going to give
process.
an August check
Yes.
for this year.
So 1/12 of the overall expenditures will be spent in August when they have not been in the past.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of things that to kind of bring everyone up to speed as it relates to COVID-19. You know, first and foremost, to kind of indicate where and what is at the board's discretion. The legislature called a special session to discuss the possibility of mandating masks with individual students that were not vaccinated. And so upon the conclusion of the 3 days of convening, there was no action taken and they adjourned. Shortly after that, an injunction was placed at the state level to allow for local control to exist among individual school districts. That was not appealed today, and so it currently stands as though a local school district has the autonomy to implement, specifically in this instance, specific things around to COVID protocol up to and including, if you so chose, a mask mandate. So the discretionary measure resides statewide for a local board of education anywhere within the state of Arkansas, as we sit here tonight, to institute some form of mandate to that regard. I will also tell you that we're still collecting information from legal counsel because it is a legal issue. And, I would tell you anything that most boards will attempt to institute on this topic will require a very shortened window of time and review with data constituting the rationale. That would be the number of cases per capita, et cetera. I don't think you're going to see anything this fall look like we saw last year, where we were in a mandate for 6 to 8 months prior to the release of the mandate. So, as far as what we have learned at this point in time, it is feasible. It's open for discussion here as a board. Would definitely want to entertain the full board in the context of the rationale of what that process would look like. But in the same regard, I would tell you that this is a topic that each and every community superintendent that I talk to is split on. And ours is no different. We've received written information from individuals in favor of trying to institute something, especially at a younger age level where students don't have access to a vaccination. And then we've also heard from many people that indicate that this is a parent's choice, not the school's choice, to make the decision as to whether they want to wear a face covering or not. So that's kind of what I can tell you at this point in time.
Can I,
address questions or comments?
yes, on the topic of COVID, in your Ready for Learning plan, so I know that our teachers are not doing virtual, they're doing in person, and if any students choose to go virtual, they will go through Virtual Arkansas, correct?
You want to address that question?
Through
Because-
a virtual provider. There are
Okay, a
several.
virtual provider, okay. So in the event that you have kids that have to quarantine,
Then we pivot to remote instruction, and that will be provided by our teachers.
okay, so our teachers will provide virtual instruction in the event they have students who are quarantined.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
If they've got connectivity or whatever, right? If they don't have internet, what do they do?
They're probably going to be behind.
They,
the teacher can make them a packet
even
or
if they
something?
don't have internet, if they have a cell phone, we can communicate digitally that way. We can, our teachers will be available to them to provide them opportunities to
Okay.
work. The ideal would be that the child and the teacher would be able to meet synchronously during what the actual class time is. That's the ideal. Recognizing that you may have multiple children in a home quarantine,
Right,
and
can't
bandwidth
all-
becomes an issue,
Right.
then there would have to be some asynchronous
Right.
instruction, but
okay. I just wondered if our
Yes.
teachers would provide that in the
Yes.
event of quarantine.
yes, ma'am. And it
Okay.
is in the learning plan, and that's not linked
It's
in the
not,
agenda,
yeah.
but we'll link it in there.
Okay,
But if I understand correctly, if a parent decides to send their child to a virtual school, it's through an outside provider. But if it's quarantined, then it's going to be through us.
Yes.
correct.
And the other thing that anyone listening that is different is if you choose a virtual on the front end, we've had, 5 or 6 homeschool requests based on the virtual option at this point in time, where they're actually going to try to do school at home.
Yes, we've had about 10 new virtual students. Now, we are not virtual, homeschool students.
Okay.
And
Since you and I talked last, 10
Total.
additional or total? Okay.
so,
So 4 more than when we talked.
whatever their reason for going to homeschool is, because we have a number of students who've never ever stepped foot on our campus who are homeschooled. And so they're just 10 additional.
I understand.
And if they're doing it because of the virus, if they're doing it for some other reason, I couldn't tell you what that reason is.
Parental choice.
Parental choice.
Anything else that you want to add to the conversation that you can think of? As far as the learning plan, here's something I would indicate that people will need to be aware of. The current guidelines, if a person is in close proximity and would be required to be quarantined, the guidelines, if an individual is vaccinated, as long as they are not symptomatic, they do not have to quarantine. An individual wearing a face covering who is in close proximity to a test positive, as long as they're not symptomatic and we know they had a face covering on, they're not required to quarantine. So the quarantine rules this year will look different than the quarantine rules last year. They have more variables and will probably be harder for us to consistently implement.
And do we have to do contact tracing this year?
Yes.
So we'll
So
still
the
do
contact tracing, the protocols as it relates to the contact tracing, length of time and all of that, we will do that. We are planning to go ahead and use the PE building. You know, we were kind of up in the air on lunch. And based on the amount of community spread, we feel as though we can keep more kids in school if we have assigned seats at lunch. And the only way we can do that is to use the PE building. So we will use the PE building for roughly a 2-hour window and then have it available for other instructional purposes before and after lunch in that regard. So that is new to the plan since we talked to you last. The cleaning routines, when a child gets out of a vehicle or gets out of a car, they go directly to the classroom, just like they did last year. The fogging of the buses will occur on a daily basis. Recommendations of cracking the windows, all of those different elements. You know, the only component right now that would require board authorization to put us pretty much where we were at this time last year would be authorization to require face coverings to be worn. Right now in our plan, they're highly recommended.
But not required.
But not
At this
required,
time.
yes.
And the quarantine stuff, that's health department, CDC, that's the.
I believe CDC, in conjunction with the health department, then in turn, that is a part of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's plan as well. An area that is much looser as we enter into the fall semester this time is there's no restrictions associated with playing band instrument. All of our athletic programming is pretty much wide open in terms of their levels of participation. So we are, you know, some of what we're doing, especially into the realm of 12 and older with those children, there's I think a lot more freedom to the local public school. Now, with that being said, a word of caution would be is that this variant does spread to not only unvaccinated people but also vaccinated people. So we will still face some challenges with, I think, spread of the virus, and my, you know, always a biggest fear I have is making sure we can keep a staffing model in place that allows to serve the children. And then the other fear, of course, is that you know, that uncertainty. If we have an individual case that falls in that 1 percentile, we would hate to see anyone pass from this virus.
Right.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, we all know that there is a risk associated with doing anything around this virus, and that's assumed as we begin to open the year.
As far as our contact tracing goes, it's still the close contact is considered 6 feet, within 6 feet for 15 minutes. Though they do allow us a 3-foot barrier as far as what you can see, but
Right.
you're still doing close contacts
That's
out.
within
6
6
feet.
feet. Yeah, okay.
We're
Well-
giving some flexibility there that we didn't have last year on the school opening.
Yeah.
And
So
we
this
are-
will
we-
be an evolving,
Yes.
we'll be having continuous discussions on this, I'm sure, even in the next week or then, you know, as school begins.
I
So-
linked the Ready for Learning plan into your agenda.
Okay, good, thank you. We'll go back and get that. So let's talk about board meetings. and a work session. You know, we've moved our board meetings to the second Monday, and that schedule is attached. That keeps us from, hopefully, you know, having conflicts with things that are on the school calendar. So board meetings are now the second Monday for those of you watching online.
And we had 2 or 3 conflicts that we just were getting ready to schedule in where we'd had to move a minimum of 3 board meetings just based on different non-school days, things of that nature. So this format, I think, better suits minimizing the number of conflicts in that regard.
Yeah.
Rationale for the work session, we really have, in my world of thinking, we need to go through and do a budgetary review so that we can approve a budget in the September meeting. Want to kind of get a sense and feel for where we're at with really goals and agenda design. Are we on target with trying to accomplish and convey to the community everything from a facilities and an instructional perspective along with financial? So you got those 3 prongs that we're constantly engaged in: the finances of the district, safe and secure facilities, and the instructional programming. Is there anything we want to discuss that we might want to integrate into our agenda process? And then, you know, the other thing that's, that really I would like to discuss with the board is, you know, where we're at with our facility master plan. What components of this plan do you have any uneasiness around? We've had a chance to review the plan, the proposal. We've had an opportunity to have Ray Beardsley out, talk about information related to bonding capacity. Really want to be able to try to address any questions that the board may have at this point in time, because you know, if you're seeking a February ballot, you really would want to be prepared for an October launch at the latest. So that's really the topics that we would have in our work session. And in that regard, those are things that I thought that would be relevant at this time of the year as we get ready to open up school year. And it would also give us a chance 1 week after school's in session to kind of give you a report on how this COVID variant is treating students and staff, and are we having additional cases? It would give us an opportunity to react, if needed, to what's going on in the school setting. So I find that to have relevance on many fronts, especially considering what we're facing. And would ask that, you know, I've heard from one board member, and we've got a couple absent, but Tuesday or Thursday, we might want to look at some calendar planning around a Tuesday or Thursday.
Do y'all have preferences on Tuesdays or Thursdays? Or either days better for you?
Either one works for me.
Kind of check yours, we'll get with Brian, you check yours, and I'll send out an email.
Either the 24th or the 26th.
That's what I would like to do.
And I'll send out an email or text to the board members that are not here to see if either of those dates work. Then we'll put something on the calendar.
You just want to work with him, get back to me on a date?
Yes, I will.
I'll set it.
Yep.
Sounds good?
Yep, I'll do that.
All right, thank you. The next item that I want to make you aware of is we had fraudulent activity with our bank account. It was a check not associated with anything that we accepted, but it was filtrated somehow into First Security, and they actually cashed that check to that client electronically. It's for $28 and something. But any time that you have any formalized breach to an account, the state auditor requires you to close that account and reopen a new account. So we had to close our bank account.
Okay.
And we've now reopened a new checking account and got everything transferred over. So the money that you observed is still, you know, in all the accounts.
So what was the cost to us for closing that account? Issuing checks?
For me to give you all the details, I don't know if Tanya's still here, but she's the one who administered all of that for me.
I'm sure there was a significant cost.
You had to order new checks because you would have a new check
Right.
account number.
And because it was on their end, I don't think there's no cost coming towards us.
Was it, can you provide any more details? That was just a check that was
I had a copy of it.
fraudulently written?
Yeah.
Like somebody
Yeah,
stole
it
a
was an
check?
no, it was an assumed payables. It said payable to, and showed the
Just
district.
a generic,
Someone made a generic check.
Yes.
With
used
our account number?
With our
Yes.
account number.
Do we know who it was?
No.
Oh,
That's easy, probably easy done in the day of photos.
yeah, photoshopping. But I wonder how they got
Yeah,
your
but
account
the whole
number.
thing was done electronically, and
Yeah.
so I don't know that they will catch them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, on our end too, we were just talking about other stuff regarding networks and ransomware. This is completely separate from this. So when Tanya cuts a check or Judy does, that goes to the state of Arkansas through their network. Doesn't even reside here at Fountain Lake at all. So.
Oh, the
that's
checks?
on that system. But you're talking about, what we're talking here is, a physical check got cashed out.
Was presented at First Security.
Right.
Electronically.
Electronically.
It
Oh.
was not even, nobody even physically come in and said, hey, here's me and my ID, but it was
Right.
presented electronically.
For
and they-
$28.50.
Yes.
Right.
But if they did that with 400 school districts for
Yeah.
$28.50
Yeah.
in 3 different states.
Right. And that's usually just the first door, hey, what can I pull? This works,
Yes.
and I go back again, and just a recommendation from the state of Arkansas was to close that account and credit it.
Okay.
And Tanya caught this.
No,
First
Security brought it to our attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
What Tanya caught was getting to restructure all of the accounts.
Poor Tanya.
That's okay.
That's
It's
a
a day,
pain.
it's probably all in the day's work.
I guess that's what we can call it.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving us that.
Yeah, I
extra
wanted you to
info.
be aware of that, and
Yeah.
then with that, I want to turn it over to Aiden.
All right, Mr. Kemp, we're gonna click item A there. So I got a call from Bill Halter, their CEO of Scenic Hill Solar, probably about 1:30 this afternoon. And they were in Little Rock. They were gonna try to make it this afternoon or this evening. They could not make it. He did go ahead and forward me the slideshow, so I'm gonna go over that with you. And they do plan to be at our next board meeting. Next slide. You can go ahead, next slide. Oh, too far. No, go back. No, you're going the wrong way.
sorry.
There you go. So the modules, the pan and tilt modules have been purchased. Those are purchased on July 8th. Our contract has been executed. The drawings are at 60%. Land purchase was just a few days ago, 9 days ago on July 30th. Next slide. This is going to the same location we presented to you a few months ago, right across, roughly from Belvedere Golf Course, kind of in front of that church, that dome-shaped church. I don't remember the name of it. Mr. Kimmel remember the name. And so going right across from the church, they are doing minimal land clearing. Remember, they purchased the land,
Right.
so we're still out $0 and everything. They purchased the land. This land has been topoed, has been surveyed, pretty rocky terrain. So instead of completely bringing in dynamite, busting, boring, everything else, they're actually going to mount the solar arrays on the slope itself. He said it was I believe a 17% grade. So steep, but not too steep. But what they're actually going to do is bring in, they've already ordered, they're a 6-inch by 5 foot, 6-inch round by 5 foot screw that they'll be drilling and then screwing these solar panel arrays into some of the rock that they can't disturb or they can't push or get through. So these will be mounted on a slight incline, but they still will pan and tilt and follow the sun. They feel very comfortable about it. They've done it many times. So he said no issue there. Next slide. So land clearing begins next week. That'll be Monday, our first day of students returning. And you kind of see the timeline here. Fencing will begin in August. Construction drawings, equipment delivery in September. Modules installed September. Electric install October. Place in service. And they look for a completion date of December. So that's what Bill shared with me this afternoon. And that's all we had on the solar project. And Bill and his team will be coming down next board meeting.
Good.
Capital improvements, I'm not gonna go over every line item. We had a very, very busy summer. Everything in green has been completed. Very few items left. Again, I'm gonna hit every single one. We did a remodel in our high school media center. It's turned out very nice. I would encourage all y'all to go over and see it at some point. And we did some LVP installs across the campus, try to get rid of some of our old carpeting we had in place, and just really carpet that we've cleaned and cleaned over many years. It's been here for over 20 years. Finally got all that ripped out. A lot of painting, a lot of LED lights went in place. Every single hallway now on campus does have LED lighting with motion detectors. A lot of plumbing repairs. Joel did a very good job on this. We've had plumbing issues on Safe Room B and our field house and PE gym for many years. Residential plumbing is what was installed. That has been ripped out. Commercial plumbing's in place
Awesome.
with pressure pumps. So I congratulate on Joel to getting that task completed.
And that'll help us with our restrooms at
Yes.
ball games.
Yes, we definitely needed it very bad.
Yeah.
I'll skip down item number 14. We did a very small renovation in the weight room. That was one of our last facility spaces that did not have HVAC.
All right.
If you remember back when I think Mr. Baker was here and I think Dr. Murphy was maybe your first or second year, we did all new weight equipment in that facility, new matting. So we just kind of went in, redid all the lights, raw LED lights. We did cellulose insulation injection in all the walls, cut 4-inch holes around all the walls.
Same process we used on the modular with the clinic.
Right. So cellulose injection on the walls,
Put mini splits in.
mini splits in, then we spray foamed all the upper walls. So those what we injected, those walls are already in place. We added 2x4 studs all the way around the whole room, and then sprayed 8 inches worth of spray foam insulation. So insulated very well. It can easily hold a 68 degree temperature all day if we wanted to, but we're keeping it at 72 degrees. So a slight renovation that's going to be very beneficial to our staff, students, and the community.
Yeah.
Moving on down, let me see what else we can hit on.
Is the parking lot, item 17 is not in green.
Those are parking stop bumps. We'll probably be doing those sometime this week.
Okay.
Moving on down, let's see, I'm trying to just find some major items here. We did replace the walkway awning. We had 150 foot of walkway awning that went between 2-4 and K1. That thing has leaked for many, many years. Our teachers are carrying umbrellas when they walk underneath that awning. So that awning has now been fixed. I'm sure they're all going to enjoy walking to and from lunch or the K1 building without getting wet.
Yes, yes.
And HVAC upgrades have been completed. And again, many projects. Retaining wall at the football field. I would encourage all of us to go up there and look at that. That turned out very nice. Cole Smoke did that with extreme green landscaping. Did a phenomenal job for us. We did add a total of 700 feet of chain link fencing for the upper parking lot around the, not around the football, but I don't know if I have a picture on the next slide or not. I don't think I do. But just the, when you're driving up the upper parking lot of the football field, we have 700 feet going from west to east across the parking space, and then going north up to the press box. That way no one can just fall over or drive off that edge.
Okay, good.
So I'd recommend drive through and see that space before you leave campus this evening.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And technology department, you know, we ordered tons of Chromebooks that y'all approved back a few months ago. All of our Chromebooks, all of our Macs, document cameras. We installed a TV in every building on campus. All that has been completed. So this is probably the biggest summer I've been involved with, and everybody across the board from our tech department, maintenance department, transportation guys did an excellent job and got a lot completed.
Did we do a lot of this stuff in-house?
Majority. I mean, there's some contractor
Some that
things.
you have to contract out,
Yeah.
but, so your guys have been busy
Yes, everybody's been very busy this
all
summer.
summer.
Mhm.
because that's not easy to complete that many tasks.
Well, we also were faced with an extended school program that kind of kept most buildings occupied, which even tightened the timeline for accessibility into the building. So they really, they did a great job, and we learned a few things on how we may want to coordinate summer school, maybe use a facility versus multiple facilities next year.
Right.
Good.
Last thing I'll say there, new south entrance and parking lot, kind of what I was talking about. We did receive our last payment form from McHenry. I did pass it on to Judy, so we'll be issuing the last check. It probably has already been issued.
Okay.
Should have went last week. So he is fully paid. Their work is completely done, except for monitoring our drainage, monitoring our runoff. They will be monitoring that for us throughout. I don't know if they're coming once a month, twice a month, I don't know, I have not asked that question, but they still be monitoring that for X amount of days, and then if they see issues, they will still fix them for us.
They'll
And-
come when it's raining really hard.
That's right. And then we were gonna pull the silt fences, but because of our stormwater permit, we gotta keep those for 4 more months. So we're at the point where we can almost pull those out, so we're getting closer, and that project turned out very nice. Again, I would
Yes.
encourage every one of you to do a
Yes.
drive-through, so.
And kind of elaborate a little bit on utilities and work with RDOT so that the utilities are now located, so kind of elaborate
Yeah,
there.
so-
That'd be the lower parking lot that's overflow and student parking.
Right, so we ran into one issue early on, you know, Dr. Murphy and myself have met many times with RDOT, phone call after phone calls, with BNF Engineering as well, and we came on campus one morning and they were born underneath that new parking lot again, and after we had just got through a meeting with RDOT, and we got them to stop, and it's just a lack of communication going down from RDOT to the boots on the ground. And I said, guys, I said, what are y'all doing? And they says, well, here's our plan. That says, no, you know, here's the latest plans. And we literally met with the head engineer for this district, you know, for District 6, which goes all the way up to Little Rock, all the way down to El Dorado.
Wow.
And like literally 2 days before they showed up. And I called him and said, you're kidding me. And I said, no. So he addressed it pretty quick, got that taken care of for us. They did make a 30-foot cut with an excavator, but they did have to go back to compaction specs on what we paid for. So they brought in the correct pit material, the SB3 got brought in, and they compacted that through CenterPoint Energy. So that did get completed, but that being said, they have left the line in place. They have issued an abandoned order on it, so it is an abandoned line. This is just a yellow gas line. And then they have already rebored on the front side of campus. So they've already made their new bore down and they've already tied it in.
So the utility is now where it needed to be.
Correct.
And here again, all of that evolved based on, if you think back, the 5-acre land purchase and OA Wind having the right-of-way purchased by RDOT initially, then forced a lot of paperwork and through time, eventually got us to the end result here. That,
So the utilities are done.
we believe so, and that kind of what we mentioned to the staff turns our attention to monitoring the work of RDOT and at what points they will constrain and have controlled egress here in front of the school. So we'll continue to monitor that because once the utilities are done, then construction will begin.
Right.
Yeah, and the only thing I will add, if you've driven that lower parking lot, they did put out stakes in the ground. And this is just an RDOT type of law. So once they can finish construction of their project, because right now, even though that's our property, and they came in and buy a portion, you know, from the front of the highway from us. So, but once that project is completed, then they turn it over to us. We've been trying to get them to go ahead and turn that over, and they have not done that.
Okay.
So there are stakes going through there. It probably removes 35 feet, maybe. So we can't utilize the full parking lot, but
It cuts
definitely
into our parking lot.
85% of it.
Okay.
That's
So,
on the completion of the road work, we have 100% ownership
Right.
of the
Yeah.
full parking lot.
Right.
You know.
Good. It's gonna, that whole project, man, we're gonna be living with it for the next few years,
Yeah.
it seems like. So it's probably gonna get worse before it gets better, but eventually it's gonna be good.
Right.
We keep telling ourselves.
We're gonna keep saying that, yes. All right, Mr. Campbell?
Yes, ma'am, I've just got a couple of things to share with you tonight. LinkedIn, the school year calendar, so that it's there. People are always looking for that. It's on our website. It's always available there. but I just shared it with you all again so that you have it. Teachers did return today, and students do return next Monday. So we're excited to have students back.
Yeah.
Saying that, next Wednesday, the 18th, will be our first early dismissal day. We'll be going, even
Going
though
on
it's the first
Wednesdays.
week of school, we'll be out early on Wednesday. And we will not be doing virtual Fridays this year because we're not
That's right.
providing our folks aren't having to do virtual and face-to-face on a continual basis. So we'll be in school Monday through Friday with just the early dismissal on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I wanted to share that with you, and then also share with you that we have gotten our Afi Plan approved. This approves us for up to 10 days per year. It says we requested for 2 years, and it was approved, but they had it down 21-22 to 23-24, and my math says that's 3 years.
Yeah.
Either way, in
Somebody
2
skipped a
years,
year there.
we'll apply again. This is what we do for what we originally did for snow days.
Snow days, yes.
And we had the folders, but because everyone has devices, and if they have their device connected on campus, then they're able to upload assignments into their Seesaw and Google and access those whether they have connectivity or not at home. So we do have that available. In the event that we had to close a building or the entire school because of the virus, we would be using an AMI day.
Okay.
We would be pivoting to remote instruction district-wide. Very likely, I can't foresee that we would close a building because
Right.
of the mixes that we have.
Right.
So it would probably be the whole district, and then that would be an AMI day. Right now, the state board can only approve these 10 days, but because the governor has declared an emergency, there is the potential for them to waive that and allow more than 10 days. Before, we had filed this before he had declared the emergency, and at that point, they said they would work with schools on a case-by-case basis to figure
Good.
something out, should they have to have an AMI day. But that's, the AMI plan is basically the same as it was last year when we had to use it for snow days.
And we will hope that Snowmageddon does not return this year.
So I wanted to share that with you tonight. But that AMI days are if everybody
Yeah.
has to go home for whatever reason,
Yeah.
as far as weather or disease. If we closed school because we were hosting a basketball tournament, that's not an AMI event.
Right.
So wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some motions, and Lloyd, I'm going to ask if you want to read the motions in Brian's absence tonight.
Motion to accept the resignation for the correlating position for the upcoming 2021-2022 school year, Lynn Davis, tennis coach.
Okay, and the board has had an opportunity to review this and ask questions to Dr. Murphy. So the motion is to accept the resignation for the correlating position for the upcoming 21-22 school year. Glenn Davis as tennis coach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The motion carries 3-0. We have one other motion.
Motion to hire the following for the correlating positions for the upcoming 2021-2022 school year, Glenn Davis, assistant football coach, and Chris Mungle, interim tennis coach.
Okay, so Coach Davis will be moving to assistant football coach, and Chris Mungle will take tennis for a year as an interim. And again, I believe this was to accommodate what we were doing in the middle school with the principal interim
Yes.
position, correct?
Yes.
We're making these moves in accordance.
And try to, restaff the football program based on some resignations earlier in the year.
Yeah. Okay, so the motion is to hire the following for the correlating positions for the upcoming 21-22 school year. Glenn Davis, assistant football coach, and Chris Mungle, interim tennis coach. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed, the motion carries 3-0, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here.